Some of y'all are calling yourselves lazy when really your nervous system hasn't felt safe in years. You're exhausted all the time, you can't focus, you're overstimulated, you're emotionally reactive, you're burnout, you're numb, you're anxious, you're constantly waiting for the next thing to go wrong, and then you beat yourself up because healing isn't happening fast enough. But healing was never meant to happen while you're still actively surviving. Hey, I'm Tiffany, and this is Between Sessions. I'm not your therapist, just a real person talking about the stuff you're probably already spiraling about at 2 a.m. Growth, relationships, anxiety, boundaries, and becoming more self aware without pretending you've got it all figured out. If you're healing and still a little messy, welcome. You're in the right place. Hey y'all, welcome back to Between Sessions, the place where we talk about the stuff people usually only accept and admit at like 1:37 in the morning after an emotional breakdown, 3 ignored text messages, and stalking somebody's social media that we absolutely should not be stalking. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today we're going to talk about something that I genuinely think is affecting way more people than we even realize, and that is survival mode. That constant state of emotional exhaustion so many of us are living in while simultaneously wondering why the hell they can't heal, why they feel stuck, why they're tired all the time, why they can't relax, why healthy things feel uncomfortable, why they overthink everything, and why they feel so disconnected from themselves. And honestly, I think a lot of people are blaming themselves for symptoms of burnout, emotional exhaustion, and nervous system overload. Some of y'all don't need another motivational quote. You don't need another self help TikTok. You don't need another person telling you to just think positive. You need rest. You need emotional safety. You need peace. You need your nervous system to finally stop feeling like it's fighting for its life all the fucking time. And unfortunately, we as a society have normalized survival mode so much. And I honestly think a lot of us don't even realize we're in survival mode anymore because it's become our normal. Like, we are so used to functioning in stress that peace almost feels suspicious now. And survival mode doesn't always look dramatic, okay? Sometimes people hear survival mode and they immediately think homelessness, abuse, severe trauma, huge life crisis. And yes, those things are absolutely correct and they absolutely do count. But survival mode can also look like constant emotional overwhelm, chronic stress, overworking, financial pressure, emotionally unstable relationships, poor sleep, calling myself out, never having time for yourself, constantly being needed, never feeling emotionally safe, carrying everybody emotionally, always anticipating disappointment, and never truly relaxing. And eventually, your body adapts to that chaos, y'all, and that's the scariest fucking part, in my opinion. Your body starts treating stress like it's home. Probably one of the deepest things I'm going to say today, but a lot of us learn survival before we ever learn peace. And I think that people don't talk about it enough is so many of us, and this is probably going to be the deepest thing that I say to y'all today. A lot of us learn survival mode and survival instincts before we ever learned peace. And I think it's something that people don't talk about enough. It's how so many of us and how many of us learned survival skills before we ever even learned emotional safety. Some people grew up learning how to read moods, how to avoid conflict, how to stay small, how to people please, and how to emotionally manage everyone else before they ever even learned how to regulate themselves. Some of y'all became emotionally intelligent because you had to, not because it was healthy, not because it was cute, not because you were mature beyond your years. You became hyper aware because your environment required it. You learned if this person sounds irritated, leave them alone. If the energy shifts, something's wrong. If something or someone gets distant, panic. If conflict starts, fix it immediately. And now, as adults, your body still reacts to emotional shifts like danger, and that's why some people panic over delayed text, overthink tone changes, need constant reassurance, struggle with abandonment fears, become anxious during conflict, because survival responses don't magically disappear just because you got older, y'all. Now, if you guys have not read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, I highly recommend it. It will explain this next section way better than I can, but there's so many facts behind your body keeping the score. And I know that the internet throws around like the nervous system talk constantly now, but genuinely, your body remembers things that your mind tries to minimize. You can tell yourself everything. You can tell yourself that you're over it. It wasn't that bad. I'm fine. Other people had it worse. Ew, I hate that. Worse. Other people had it worse. Meanwhile, your body is still exhausted, tense, overstimulated, anxious, struggling to sleep, struggling to regulate emotions, struggling to feel safe. And then people wonder why they can't heal while still living inside environments that constantly trigger survival responses. You cannot heal in environments that continuously convince your body it's unsafe. And that includes a list of things, y'all. Toxic relationships, chaos, burnout, emotional inconsistency, overworking, never resting, constantly abandoning yourself, always being emotionally available to everyone else except you. And some of y'all, if we're being real, have not fully relaxed in years. And because our bodies have not fully relaxed in years, we now feel guilty when we rest. Rest literally feels guilty. And honestly, one of the saddest parts about survival mode is that eventually rest starts feeling uncomfortable. You finally sit down and suddenly you feel guilty, you're restless, you're anxious, unproductive, behind in life, because your worth has become attached to survival. Your worth became attached to productivity, fixing things, helping people, overachieving, constantly pushing through, and now your brain literally panics when you slow down. I am truly guilty of this. My therapist and I had to sit down a few years ago and literally take productivity out of my vocabulary, because when I sat down to rest, my heart, I would literally have an anxiety attack because I would be so anxious that there's 1,000 and other things I needed to do. But the truth is that none of those things required being done right then and there. But I still could not sit down and relax. I was so anxious. And y'all, that's not peace, that's conditioning. And I think a lot of high functioning people don't realize how burnout they are, because technically they're still functioning, right? They're still going to work, still showing up, still helping people, still paying the bills, still smiling, still posting online, but internally they're exhausted. And in today's world, we have glorified overworking like so freaking much, y'all. And can we please talk about how normalized burnout has become? Like, people literally brag about exhaustion now. They will say things like, I only slept 4 hours, I'm grinding, I'm booked and busy, I'm running on caffeine and vibes. I've literally said that. Oh, I'm running on caffeine today. That is crazy. Meanwhile, our nervous system is literally screaming. And listen, y'all, I understand survival sometimes requires overworking. Life's expensive, bills exist, responsibilities exist, but there is a huge difference between I'm doing what I need to do right now and building your entire identity around depletion. Exhaustion is not a personality trait, y'all. Being constantly unavailable to yourself is not healthy. I genuinely think that some of the most exhausted people are the one that everyone assumes are okay, right? The funny friend, the strong friend, the dependable friend, the emotionally intelligent friend, the person everyone vents to. And nobody checks on them because they seem fine. But a lot of strong people are actually just deeply conditioned to survive quietly. And let's be honest, this one, y'all, this is going to step on some toes, probably even mine, but we're going to keep that to myself. Toxic relationships, y'all. Some relationships keep you in that fight or flight mode. They absolutely train your nervous system to stay in survival mode, especially the emotionally inconsistent relationships. The hot and cold, the mixed signals, the unpredictability, the walking on eggshells, the anxiety, the emotional instability. that stuff changes you, y'all. You start monitoring everything. The tone changes, the text patterns, affection levels, energy shifts, social media activity, and eventually you're no longer experiencing the relationship. You're managing the anxiety inside the relationship. And honestly, that kind of exhaustion hits different, y'all. Physical exhaustion can sometimes be fixed with sleep, right? But emotional exhaustion, that's the kind where your body hurts, the little things overwhelm you, you don't want to text people back, everything feels heavy, your patience is thin, you feel disconnected from yourself, and people around you think that you've just been in a mood lately when no, you're literally emotionally depleted. And Lord, help me please, because this one is going to hurt. This one's going to ruffle a few feathers, okay? But some people are addicted to the chaos. Some people genuinely don't know how to exist without chaos anymore. And not necessarily because they want the pain, right? But because chaos feels familiar and familiar feels safe, even when it hurts. We spoke about this before in other podcasts. So people will recreate the emotional unavailable relationships, the toxic cycles, burnout, instability, inconsistency, the emotional roller coasters, because calmness feels unfamiliar and unfamiliar feels dangerous a lot of the time. This one is huge, and if y'all follow my Snapchat, you have seen me say so much about this, okay? Access to me is a privilege because we are not built for constant access. And honestly, modern life is overstimulating as fuck. We are accessible all the time now. Text calls, emails, social media notifications, drama, news, content, opinions. Your brain literally never gets silence anymore, and people expect immediate access to you constantly. And if you don't respond fast enough, suddenly people think things just off the wall, like you're mad, you're acting weird, you're ignoring them, pulling away. Meanwhile, maybe you're just mentally exhausted. And truth is, social media, as I sit up on here about to post this on social media has made everybody performance wellness. Like we perform in a way that, and honestly, as I sit here talking on a podcast that I am going to post on all social media platforms, I will be the first to say that social media has made everybody perform wellness. Social media made this even worse because now people feel pressure to perform, like perform healing instead of actually experiencing the healing, right? You can be mentally drowning and still posting, still smiling, still making content, still showing up online, and people think visibly that means you're okay, right? Meanwhile, some of the most anxious, depressed, emotionally exhausted people are the ones posting consistently because distractions feel easier than sitting with themselves. And that's so real. I used to be this way. And not just with posting on social media, but catching the next flight, going to see the next friend, going to do the next thing. I was constantly running because sometimes feels way better to run than it does to sit in those feels. If I'm being honest, it's just not healthy. Now I'm going to keep it real with y'all because that's what I always do on this podcast. You cannot self-care your way out of consistent damage and constant damage, okay? And listen, I love me some self-care, okay? I love the little routines. I love journaling. I love therapy, clearly. And I love a good self-care, self-help, whatever TikTok. But let's be real for a second, y'all. Some of y'all are trying to heal while your environment is still actively harming you. And baby, that face mask is not going to fix emotional drowning. You cannot meditate your way out of relationships that destabilize your nervous system. You can't journal your way out of chronic burnout while refusing to slow down. And you cannot heal while constantly abandoning yourself. Now, listen when I say this, okay? Your body is not failing you because honestly, I think a lot of people think that something is wrong with them. Like when really their body is just been under stress for way too long. Your body's not failing you. Your body's responding to what it has experienced. The exhaustion, the anxiety, the shutdowns, the irritability, the brain fog, the emotional numbness. Sometimes those are survival responses and not personality flaws. This one's real because I don't think that I really thought about it in this way until probably like the recent, maybe past year. But healing requires safety, y'all. And I think it's one of the biggest things I want people to understand, that healing requires safety, not perfection, not fake positivity, not pretending you're okay. Safety, real, honest, true safety. Your body cannot relax while constantly anticipating pain. And sometimes safety means changing environments, changing habits, changing relationships, changing routines, changing access, changing the way that you speak to yourself. Because healing isn't always becoming a better person. Sometimes healing is finally becoming a safe place for yourself to land. And baby, I'll be the first to say, healing is not always pretty, okay? Social media has made healing look aesthetic. Like the green juices, the Pilates, the cute little matching journals, the candlelit baths, the perfect routines. And don't get it twisted, these things help, they really do. But real healing often is deeply unglamorous. Sometimes healing looks like saying no. It looks like disappointing others, sleeping more, leaving toxic relationships, resting without guilt, crying, grieving, slowing the hell down, setting fucking boundaries, not texting that man back. Not texting them back. Learning emotional regulation, being alone, finally listening to your body. Healing isn't always pretty. Sometimes healing is just deciding you're done abandoning yourself. And I think that a lot of people struggle with not healing because they think that it's too late. You know, the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Listen, y'all, you're not behind, okay? I really need someone listening to hear this part. You are not failing because healing is taking time. If your nervous system has been in survival mode for years, of course your body doesn't magically trust peace overnight. Of course rest feels uncomfortable. Of course healthy love feels unfamiliar. And hell yeah, of course slowing down feels weird. Trust me, I know. You're trying to teach your body safety after years and years of stress, and that takes time. And guess what? That is okay. And maybe that's where a lot of us need to start. Not with how do I become more productive? How do I glow up? How do I become better? But how do I make my life feel safer for my mind and body? And that looks different for all of us. Because if your body is if it constantly feels like it's under attack, healing will always feel out of reach. And if nobody's told you lately, you do not have to earn rest. You do not have to justify exhaustion. You do not have to constantly prove your worth through suffering. And maybe the strongest thing that you can do right now is stop surviving long enough to finally start healing. Now that I have preached to you guys this entire time about self-care and actually taking care of yourself and coming out of that survival mode, I'm going to take the evening off because I can't remember the last time I had an evening where I did absolutely nothing, because life gets busy, right? We have to stop making excuses, y'all. If this episode hits home for you, please share it with someone, okay? Post your favorite clip, tag me, leave a review, send it to a friend who keeps saying that they're fine but clearly hasn't slept emotionally since 2019. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here. This is therapy for me, in my opinion. I totally love coming on here and talking and shooting the shit with you guys. I love hearing your feedback. And I know that you know at least 4 people in your phone right now who need to hear this. So thanks so much for y'all listening. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.